Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mr. Hicks Podcast. We're here getting it in once again, time and time again. This is the college football special today. We're doing college football today. We're going to be doing NFL tomorrow. So let me get right into it. So week 5 of college football just passed, just got put in the books, and so much happened. We had two more firings in college football, which is really crazy for this early in the season. And also we had like a bunch of upsets, a bunch of disappointing performances. Some people, even in their winning, even when they won, didn't look great doing it. It's really kind of surprising how some of these teams, it's like, oh, this is like the number 1 team, or this is the number of top 5 team in the country, and then they're barely scraping by. So I'll get to that in the first one in a minute. So like, I like to open with stuff like this because this is like something that fascinates me. Like when a team has a great victory or like an upset victory, they turn around and then like lay an egg like the very next week. So like when Appalachian State beat Texas A&M like 3 weeks ago, they turn around and lost to Troy at home. You would think that that's not a thing that should happen. But a lot of times these small teams, or not small teams, but smaller teams, like FBS schools or FCS schools, they get a big win over a Power 5 team, and then it's like their Super Bowl. And then they go the next week and like all the air is let out of them. They don't have the same fire. I don't really know what to say. I don't want to just like broad stroke it, and say why they do this, but I do know that it happens quite a bit. So this week it was Middle Tennessee. And remember, Middle Tennessee beat University of Miami, and pretty badly too. It wasn't like, oh, that was just like a fluke last minute storm. No, they were winning that game pretty much from beginning to end. I'm not sure if Miami ever led in that game that I think about it. So after beating Miami last week, they messed around and lost to UTSA. So not to say that UTSA is not a good team. I'm a big fan of Jeff Traylor and what he's done with that program. Built that program literally from the ground up. Gets a lot of respect in the coaching community, and quite frankly, I hope he's in line for some of these coaching jobs that are coming open. Georgia scrapes by Missouri. So in 2 weeks, they barely beat Missouri. They gave up almost 20 points to Kent State the week before. For someone who's a powerhouse, with the amount of talent that is on Georgia, they should have boat raced Kent State, and they did not. And they should have boat raced Missouri, and they also did not. I'm not a big fan of Stetson Bennett. I don't believe Stetson Bennett is really a guy. But then again, I don't think Stetson Bennett really has a lot of weapons. What he has is a lot of tight ends. He has some very elite tight ends. Brock Bowers is amazing. Darren Washington is an absolute freak. And Eric Gilbert is apparently nowhere to be found. I don't think he had a single catch. He's a guy that was a 5-star. I think it was the first 5-star tight end ever by Rivals. And now he's usually, not that he wasn't great, because he's probably one of the greatest high school tight end prospects ever. He just, at positional value, they just don't put that on tight ends a lot. So, and there's no great outside receiver. The next person that says anything to me about Lance McConkey or whatever his name is, please stop believing that dude is a number 1. He's not a number 1. He's not stretching your field. He's not really scaring anybody. And I'd be much more worried about Bowers than I am about Lad McConkey. And matter of fact, they are, because what the people are doing is just sitting on McConkey and letting Stetson Bennett have to beat them. And I don't blame him. And by the way, and the Georgia defense is not elite. We didn't think it was going to be elite. Not that we weren't going to be elite. It was more like it was so ridiculous last year that we had 5 starters get drafted into the NFL. So that's just insane. So understanding it wasn't going to be as good as it was last year, I'm actually really surprised at the Georgia secondary that is not as good as I thought it was going to be. Keely Ringo was a very highly rated corner, one of the best corner prospect, huge kid, like a 6'2" and 190 coming out of high school. So he was already just a grown ass man in high school. And he really hasn't panned out to be that kind of shutdown corner that you would expect out of Georgia. So without a dominant defense, I really don't think Georgia is their running game. They didn't have a 100-yard rusher. It's definitely a good running game. It is a passing game, but it's not a vertical passing game. And I don't think they're going to be able to beat elite teams. But honestly, I'm not sure there are any elite teams. I think Alabama's having the same type of problem. They just don't have any really consistent play out of their wide receivers. No, not out of their tight ends either. What's the name? The running back that transferred in there. His name will come to me, I'm sure, after this thing is over. But he's doing a fantastic job to the point where he's like their number one receiver and the number one running back. But I don't think any elite team can perform they were with their running back being their top, even close to being their top receiver. But that's just my opinion. Ole Miss beats Kentucky. Yo, shout out to my man Josh Pate on Late Kick Live. He really called this out and said that Mississippi State is really not getting the respect that they deserve, that there's a lot of talent on that team. The running game was great. And he was not kidding about the running game. Like, they really... I'm sorry. I'm saying Ole Miss, not Mississippi State. So it's Ole Miss. The Ole Miss defense and running game, which is really surprising because you've got Lane Kiffin, who's an offensive guy, a pass guy, and you would think that he was going to really emphasize the passing game. But they lost to a great quarterback last year, Matt Corral, and they replaced him with a young guy, Jackson Dart. Dart's not bad, but he's not what Corral was last year. But they're leaning on Zach Evans, and a couple other running backs. Their running game has been really stellar this year. The defense has been really good. So I personally always thought Kentucky was kind of fraudulent. Will Levis kind of did his thing. He still threw for 200, over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't throw any picks. Not really his fault. But Kentucky could not run the ball at all. They had less than 3 yards per catch, and they gave up 2 fumbles. So when it's a tight game, and all the other numbers were very comparable. So about the same amount of total offense, about the same amount of first downs. So with everything else being comparable, you can't give up turnover. You can't turn the ball over. It's all there is to it. So A&M is the one that lost to Mississippi State. So and my shout out to Josh Pate is actually for Mississippi State because he was one of the people that said you're not giving Mississippi State enough credit for what they're doing. I think they're a great offense. They also put together a very good running game. So one of the things that stuck out to me is that Texas A&M had 137 yards in penalties. So, no, I'm sorry, Mississippi. I got to get my game together. Okay, Mississippi had 137 penalty yards opposed to Texas A&M's 37. And they still won this game. And it wasn't really a close game either. It was like 45-23. This wasn't close. Mississippi State handed Texas A&M. When are we going to stop making excuses for Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M? This is what this program is. They are a 4-loss program. They are they are average, a 4-loss program every single year. Even last year when they beat Alabama, they still managed to lose 4 games. Lost to Arkansas last year. I mean, this is who they are. It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of flash and pomp. It's a lot of chest thumping, you know what I mean? But it's just not a lot of production, consistent production, not a vertical passing game. There's not a lot. A lot of the guys, I see some of the guys that come in, they go. So they have great recruiting classes, and the kids don't stay. The kids end up, at Troy. The kids end up at Southern Mississippi. They end up at Sam Houston. So you have great players come through there, but if you look at those rosters, how many of those kids are still on the roster, number one? And number two, why doesn't Texas A&M develop players? Why do you get these monster recruiting classes and you don't see very many kids out of Texas A&M getting drafted into the NFL? That just tells me that they're not developing. They're recruiting, they're not developing, and they're not executing on the football field. So that Texas A&M is going to Texas A&M. They're darn near as bad as Texas is going to Texas. So... all right, so, this is a good one. Georgia Tech, after firing their coach earlier in the year, it goes to Pitt and beats University of Pittsburgh while they were ranked. So Pitt was the number 24 team in the country. And they go out there and they beat Pittsburgh. Shout out, the running game was just ridiculous. Mr. Hanson Hall, 157 yards rushing, and then the quarterback, Jeff Sims, 81 yards rushing themselves. So basically, they just ran them into the ground. Pittsburgh lost 2 fumbles, and then Keaton Slovis threw an interception. It wasn't really on Slovis. I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of this game, but Slovis had a pretty good game. He threw for over 300 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, had the 1 pick, kept them in it. But it's the fact that Georgia Tech is such a bad program. It's such a bad program that if you're losing to Georgia Tech, it's very similar to losing to a Vanderbilt. Like, you really, dude, really losing to Georgia Tech after they fired their coach. I don't know if the coach was just doing that bad a job, but it is what it is. Like, this is not. If I'm like, honestly, if I'm Pat Narduzzi, I'm looking over my shoulder a little bit right now. That's not a good look. Kansas beats Iowa State. So this is a game. It's a game of the Golden Boys. So like for the last few years, you had Matt Campbell was an absolute golden boy. So like Matt Campbell is offered jobs left and right. No, I like what we're building here in Iowa. I really believe that Matt Campbell is holding on because he has a specific job that he wants. Because I just find it hard to believe that he's really hanging out there at Iowa State for the long haul. But it's a possibility, but this is what happens. Like you catch fire, you catch lightning in a bottle for a few years because you had great recruiting, you got some older players at a place like Iowa State. The guys tend not to leave early because, they're not high-end guys like that. And you get some experienced teams with a lot of weight room and a lot of character and all those guys, scrappy dudes. And they come up and they beat you and they have a year where they win 9, 10 games. But those years are few and far between at a program like Iowa State. And now here comes Kansas and Lance Leipold, who is just having a fantastic season and really big on what he's done there. I was really impressed with what he did. Won 6 national championships while at Division III Wisconsin Whitewater. He turns around the Buffalo program, gets a job at Kansas. Kansas was one of the laughingstock programs. They're right down there with Kansas football, Vanderbilt football, and Georgia Tech football. We're all pretty much right around the same level of putridness. And for him to go in there and turn that program around as quickly as he has, the interesting thing about it is like, poor Kansas. Like Kansas finally got a good coach, has a good thing going. Now, Wisconsin is firing their coach. Maybe they want Lance Leipold. Lance Leipold coached here for a long time. I think he was a coordinator there at one point. And then you have Nebraska. He's a culture builder. If he could do that at Kansas, of course we can come up here and bring him to the Big Ten. Nebraska with all our great tradition, our great football acumen up here. Of course, the great support that we have. Our fans support, get out of here. So it's like Kansas is like we just got a coach. We just went from being terrible and no one thinking about us for anything except for like a just guaranteed W on their schedule. To, Kansas is so great, we want their head coach. 2 years that happened in. That is crazy. Crazy. I mean, and the other thing is dude, he's been there for 2 years. I love Lance Leipold, what he's done with the program. 2 years. Just slow it down a little bit. But I think somebody is. I think somebody's going to make the leap and offer him like $8-10 million to leave Kansas. Kansas, I don't know if Kansas got it in to come up with the bag for a head coach for football. They're a basketball school. I think they're like enjoying and basking in this great. We finally got some football going. But are they really in it like that in order to have a good football program? I don't know. Maybe they'll come up with it. So also, along with Kansas, Syracuse is undefeated. UCLA is undefeated. I believe these two coaches really needed to get off the snot. So like Dino Babers at Syracuse, love what he's doing up there. And then you've got Chip Kelly at UCLA. UCLA is not a... The thing with Chip Kelly is that Chip Kelly's system takes a while to really catch on. Once it catches on, it's amazing. But it usually takes a few years. And I think it's finally starting to catch on there. Good for him and good for that program. And also, moving along, we got Colorado and Wisconsin fired their head coach a couple days ago. So I'm going to start with Colorado because, to be honest with you, the Colorado football program was so irrelevant. I didn't even realize, and I follow college football pretty closely, I didn't realize until more than a day later that they even fired their coach. There are some programs we're going to cut in, we got breaking news. Nebraska fires their coach. Breaking news, Wisconsin fires their head coach. When Colorado fired their coach, it's not a peep, not a ripple. This is nobody cared. Nobody cared. And I remember when Colorado was good. I remember Rashaan Salam. I remember Cordell Stewart, the slash out there killing him. I remember those days. And Colorado is a beautiful campus out there in Boulder. Beautiful state. If you've never been to Colorado, I'm not that much of an outdoorsy person, but I just want to hike and shoot something when you're in Colorado. You want to fish. I don't know why. It's really nice out there. But that's how irrelevant the program is. And that's the reason why I personally believe that Jeff Traylor from UTSA is a perfect fit for that program. I would love to see him come up from the G5 and he's already built a program from scratch, so I don't think it would be much for him to rebuild a program at Colorado with more money, with better facilities, with that recruiting ground that he's got, and those connections that he made in Texas. Hopefully he gets a nod for that job. Also, Wisconsin, I thought it was particularly ballsy for Wisconsin to make this move because Paul Chris is not a bad coach. Paul Chris is 67-24. If you're going to fire somebody that won 60% of his games, you better have a really good game plan in place. I'm pretty much sure that they do, but if it doesn't work out, because I'm pretty sure, to me, Paul Chris is going to get a job right away. He's going to get a job. Somebody's going to hire Paul Chris right now because he's not a bad coach. Also, so he won 60% of his games. I think Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator there, is going to be the move for the interim head coach. He's a hot name, and a lot of people thought that if they didn't do something with him, he was going to up and leave and get a head coaching job somewhere. So I think this was a move. They weren't really happy with what the offense is doing. It hasn't really modernized. They're not getting a lot out of Graham Mertz. They're usually known for having great defense, having a great running game. And then Illinois and Brett Bielema, the hated Brett Bielema, comes up there in Camp Randall and rams it down your throat, just straight, just gives you the business. The way, basically, they out Wisconsin with a great running game and a great defense. Remember, Bielema used to be the head coach at Wisconsin. And I think that got into people's feels. Somebody came up there and gave them the business the way that they used to go and give people the business. Nobody really likes that. Turnabout is not always fair play. Nobody likes somebody give you the business like that. So with these jobs coming open, I don't. And the crazy thing is, when 5 head coaches getting fired, Brian Harsin at Auburn is not one of them. I just figured that was going to be. I thought he was going to be the first one to go. To be honest with you, the fact that he's still holding on to that job is really quite interesting to me. So that's my college football show. So we're talking about the NFL tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take it easy. I'm out.